All right, guys, we're going to work through an example together here, converting an isometric or a 3D drawing to a multi-view drawing. Before you get to this, you should have gone through the slideshows and got some information about what a multi-view drawing is. A multi-view drawing, just to review, is an engineering drawing that shows multiple sides of one object at one time. So this would allow an engineer to know measurements of multiple sides, the front, the back, the side, the top. It's a really useful engineering drawing when you are creating things, which you are going to eventually be creating your CO2 car. So these measurements and the information on those drawings is going to be very important. So if you remember from the slides, the most common views on a multi-view drawing are the front, top, and right side. So on this cube that we're going to do together, you would have your front. So this is if you were like standing over here and looking straight at the front of the cube, you would see this square. The top is if you were floating above it looking down, and then you would have your right side, which is if you were standing over here viewing that. So when you do this, you're going to use 3 different colors. This will help you separate those 3 sides from each other, which will help you create your multi-view drawing. So it doesn't matter which color you use want to use 3 different colors, one for the front, one for the top, and one for the side. What I will have you do to help with these drawings is you are going to color the sides. So for example, I'm going to make my front side blue. I will make my top side orange. And then I will make my right side green. So again, it doesn't matter which colors you choose, as long as you have a color for your front, top, and right side. This will help us differentiate as we go. And as your shapes get more complex, it's going to make them a lot easier to construct those. So as we draw this, we're just going to start one side at a time. Easiest way to start is if we start with our front. So I'm going to grab my blue marker. Actually, I'm going to have you do this in pencil, and then we can trace it with the blue marker once we're good. But we're going to count our cubes here. So this cube is made up of 1, 2 spaces by 1, 2 spaces tall. So I'm going to come down here, and I am just going to draw a square that is 2 spaces by 2 spaces. Okay. So this square that I drew would represent this square here. Okay. Now our next step, we're going to do our top view. So our top view would be this side of the cube represented in orange. The thing about multi-view drawings is when we create them, we want to make sure things are lined up properly. So for example, this cube here is two squares wide on the paper. Our top view is also going to be 2 squares wide. So directly above it, we are going to draw what we would see from the top. Okay. So if you notice, our front view is 2 squares wide. Our top view is also 2 squares wide. It's kind of like if you're looking at your CO2 car. If your CO2 car from the side is 10 inches long, if you look at it from above, it's still going to be 10 inches long. So these dimensions don't change, just our perspective of them. So now if we go to our right side, again, you can see it's 2 squares tall, 1, 2, which happens to be the same height as our front view, which makes sense. And then our width of it, again, is 1, 2. So we're gonna have a square that's 2 by 2. And then since I did green, I'm going to create a green square. So basically what that multi-view drawing does is we unfold that cube. So we have our front side and we just folded that top up like we're unfolding a box. And then this right side, we just fold it right out. So we're just unfolding the drawing. Okay. Now, as the shapes get more complex, as you go through these, like, you can help each other out. But it's gonna be very important to kind of identify which sides are your front and your top. So if I'm gonna stick with the blue as my front, I want to color anything blue that I can see from this viewpoint. Okay, so if I was standing right here, looking towards that shape, this is what I would see. So I'm going to color that blue. And then my top, which is orange, if I was floating above it, up here looking straight down, I would be able to see this very top edge. And I would also be able to see this back little surface here. And then my right side would be these remaining. You'd have this face that's up above, and then that little nook that's kind of tucked underneath. Because if I was down here looking this direction, I would be able to see that. So now as you draw this as a multi-view drawing, we're gonna take it one side at a time. So this shape here, it's 1 cube, 2 cubes wide here. It goes up and then over cubes. So you can kind of see how these are stacked. So on my paper, I got 2 cubes, I go up, and then 2 cubes. So if I trace that with my blue, now I'm gonna go on my top. This is where it gets a little bit trickier because we have multiple levels. But as you can see, this 3D shape, it's really just 1 cube thick the whole way across. So we have 1 cube, and then down here is 1 cube. But in total, it is 3 cubes long. So we'd have 1, 2, 3. So if you were looking straight down at it, floating above, you would really just see a rectangle with a little line right there. So this area would be these two, and then that little one back there would be representative of this. So it is just a straight rectangle. Not gonna do the same thing if we look at the side. It is 1, 2 cubes tall. So I'm going to make sure I line everything up. Okay. And then we have this 1 cube sticks out a little bit further than that. So we're going to show that by drawing a line there. So these drawings are just a 2-dimensional version of the faces of that. As you do this, please pay attention to how everything lines up between the views. That's going to be a really important part of your drawings as we make your CO2 cars, to make sure everything lines up with each other, where your wheels are, where your cartridge goes. So we need to make sure everything's lined up nice and neat. So there's 2 examples. Feel free to watch these back, help each other out. I will be back on Wednesday and we'll talk about these and we'll work on your multi-view drawings for your car. With that, good luck.